Standing in front of the dressing room mirror, staring at my reflection in that size 14 bridesmaid dress, I felt smaller than ever. My mother's voice echoed behind me like a knife. "Honey, you need to lose at least 30 pounds before Sarah's wedding. We cannot have you ruining the photos." The words cut deep, but somewhere inside a tiny spark of hope flickered. Maybe if I changed myself, they would finally love me the way I had always dreamed. Maybe this transformation would be my ticket to belonging in my own family. Before I continue this story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Trust me, you will not believe what happened next when I actually succeeded. Growing up in our middle-class Chicago neighborhood, I always knew I was different from the rest of my family. My father worked as an accountant downtown, spending long hours hunched over spreadsheets and tax returns. My mother worked part-time at a beauty salon called Glamorous You, where she learned all about what made people beautiful, and more importantly, what did not. Then there was Sarah, my older sister by 3 years, who seemed to float through life effortlessly at a perfect size 6, working as a marketing coordinator and collecting compliments like flowers. I was the anomaly, the chunky one, the daughter who made my parents exchange worried glances across the dinner table when I reached for seconds. From childhood, I remember family gatherings where relatives would pat my head sympathetically while praising Sarah's latest achievements. "Sarah looks just like her mother did at that age," they would say while I stood invisibly beside them, wondering what it felt like to be the golden child. Our family belonged to that particular tier of society where appearances mattered deeply. We lived in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone else's business, where maintaining the right image meant everything. My parents cared deeply about what the neighbors thought, what our extended family whispered about, and most importantly, how we appeared in family photographs that would be displayed on mantles and social media profiles for years to come. When Sarah announced her engagement to Bradley, a financial advisor with perfectly styled hair and an impressive salary, our house transformed into wedding planning headquarters. The couple had chosen a prestigious country club for their celebration, the kind of place where everything had to be absolutely perfect. No detail could be overlooked, no element could detract from the fairy tale they were creating. The day everything changed started innocently enough. We had scheduled a family trip to the bridal shop downtown to try on bridesmaid dresses. I remember walking into that boutique surrounded by white gowns and sparkling accessories, feeling excited to be included in something so important. The sales associate, a woman named Patricia, with perfectly applied lipstick, guided us to a private fitting room where dozens of dresses hung waiting. As I struggled to zip myself into the size 14 dress, I could hear my mother and Sarah discussing what they called the Tiffany problem, just outside the dressing room curtain. Their voices carried clearly through the thin fabric, each word landing like a physical blow. "She is going to stand out in all the wrong ways," my mother whispered urgently. "The photographs will be ruined if she looks like this." Sarah's response cut even deeper. "Mom is right, Tiff. Maybe this is actually good motivation for you. You have always said you wanted to lose weight." When my father arrived to pick us up, he took one look at me in the dress and nodded grimly. His words were delivered with the same matter-of-fact tone he used for discussing tax deductions. "We are spending $15,000 on this wedding. Everything needs to be perfect." Standing there in that fitting room surrounded by mirrors that reflected my inadequacy from every angle, I felt like a defective product that needed to be fixed before it could be displayed publicly. The weight of their expectations, their disappointment, and their conditional love pressed down on me until I could barely breathe. "Fine," I heard myself saying, though the word felt foreign in my mouth. "I will do it. I will lose the weight." The next morning I drove to Fit Life Center, a gym located in a strip mall 20 minutes from my house. The membership fee felt like an investment in my family's approval. The staff paired me with Marcus, a personal trainer in his 30s, who had served as a Marine before dedicating his life to helping people transform their bodies. His approach was no nonsense and demanding exactly what I thought I needed. Marcus designed a routine that would dominate every aspect of my life. I began waking up at 5 in the morning, arriving at the gym before sunrise to complete intense cardio and strength training sessions. My lunch breaks at the insurance company where I worked became opportunities for quick salad consumption rather than socializing with colleagues. Every Sunday, I spent hours meal prepping, carefully portioning out proteins and vegetables while avoiding anything that might derail my progress. The first few weeks were absolutely exhausting. My body ached constantly, and I found myself falling asleep by 8:30 each night. But underneath the physical discomfort, something unexpected began growing. For the first time in my adult life, I was taking control of something. I was proving to myself that I could commit to a goal and follow through regardless of how difficult it became. My colleagues at the insurance office began noticing changes within the first month. Jennifer, who worked in the cubicle next to mine, commented on how different I seemed. "You have more energy lately," she observed during one of our coffee breaks. "And you seem happier somehow." After 6 weeks of strict adherence to my new lifestyle, the scale showed a 15-pound loss. My clothes felt looser, and I caught myself standing straighter when I walked. When Sarah visited our parents' house that weekend, her surprise was genuine. "Wow, you are actually doing it," she said, though her tone carried more shock than encouragement. My mother's reaction was more measured. "Keep going, honey. You are not there yet," she reminded me, but I could see a glimmer of approval in her eyes that I had been craving my entire life. That small acknowledgement felt like sunlight after years of living in shadows. 4 months into my transformation, I had exceeded everyone's expectations, including my own. The scale showed a 35-pound loss, taking me from a size 14 to a size 8. Marcus called me one of his most dedicated clients, and I felt proud of the discipline I had discovered within myself. When we returned to the bridal shop for a final fitting, Patricia had to alter the bridesmaid dress to make it smaller rather than larger. But something unexpected had happened during those months of intense focus on my health. My confidence had grown alongside my physical transformation. I began speaking up during family conversations, offering opinions on wedding details that I previously would have kept to myself. When Sarah suggested purple flowers for the centerpieces, I found myself suggesting white roses instead, arguing that they would photograph better and create a more elegant atmosphere. My dating life, which had been non-existent for nearly 2 years, suddenly became active again. I matched with Daniel on a dating app, a software engineer with kind eyes and a genuine smile who seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. Our first date lasted 4 hours as we talked about everything from travel dreams to favorite books. At work, my increased confidence translated into better performance. I volunteered to give presentations that I previously would have avoided, and my supervisor mentioned the possibility of a promotion. My wardrobe evolved from baggy clothes designed to hide my body to fitted dresses that celebrated the shape I had worked so hard to achieve. I joined a weekend hiking group and discovered a love for outdoor activities I never knew existed. The friendships I formed with these people were different from any relationships I had experienced before. These friends appreciated my personality, my sense of humor, and my hiking skills, rather than judging me based on my appearance or my relationship to other family members. However, as my transformation became more dramatic, I began noticing subtle changes in my family's behavior that made me uncomfortable. My mother started making comments like, "Do not lose too much weight, honey. Men do not like stick figures." Her tone carried an undercurrent of concern that felt less about my health and more about maintaining control. Sarah's reactions became increasingly complex. During her own wedding dress fittings, she seemed irritated when the seamstress commented on how lovely we both looked. "This is my day," she reminded everyone in the room, though no one had suggested otherwise. My father's discomfort manifested in different ways. "You are different," he told me one evening after dinner. "More opinionated." He said it like it was a problem that needed solving rather than growth that should be celebrated. Family dinners, which had always been challenging for me, became even more tense. I was no longer content to sit quietly in the corner, accepting whatever scraps of attention were thrown my way. I participated in conversations, shared stories about my work and new friendships, and generally took up space in ways that seemed to make everyone else uncomfortable. Bradley, Sarah's fiancé, began noticing my transformation in ways that clearly bothered my sister. "Tiffany looks amazing," he commented during one family gathering, and I watched Sarah's expression tighten with something that looked like jealousy. My mother's response to that comment revealed more than she probably intended. "Well, she is still not as naturally beautiful as Sarah," she said quickly, as if my improvement somehow threatened my sister's status as the family beauty. The subtle sabotage began shortly after that exchange. My mother started pushing comfort foods during family meals, suggesting that I was becoming too obsessed with the gym. She made comments about how I was too busy with my new lifestyle to spend quality time with family, even though I attended every dinner invitation and family gathering. As Sarah's wedding day approached, the final dress fitting revealed just how dramatically my appearance had changed. The photographer taking pre-wedding shots suggested capturing more images of me, noting how well I photographed. Sarah's reaction was immediate and explosive. "This is my day," she screamed in the middle of the bridal shop, causing other customers to stare. "Why is everyone focusing on Tiffany?" Later that evening, I accidentally overheard a family meeting taking place in our parents' living room. Their voices carried through the thin walls as they discussed what they called the Tiffany issue. "She is getting too much attention," my mother said with obvious frustration. "This was not the plan." My father's agreement was swift and decisive. "Maybe she should tone down the makeup for the wedding. Keep things simple." As I listened to them strategize about how to minimize my presence at my own sister's wedding, the devastating truth became crystal clear. They had never wanted me to succeed. They had wanted me to become acceptable and visible, just enough to avoid embarrassing them in photographs. My actual transformation, my confidence, my happiness. These things were problems to be managed rather than achievements to be celebrated. Wedding day arrived with all the pageantry and perfection that my family had spent months orchestrating. I arrived at the bridal suite early in the morning, ready to support Sarah on the most important day of her life. The room buzzed with activity as hairstylists, makeup artists, and photographers prepared to capture every magical moment. However, it became immediately apparent that my family had orchestrated a careful plan to manage my presence throughout the day. The hairstylist, whom I later learned had received specific instructions from my mother, was directed to give me a simple, understated look, while Sarah received a full glamorous treatment that took nearly 3 hours to complete. Similarly, the makeup artist had been briefed to keep my look natural and minimal, while transforming Sarah into a radiant bride with dramatic eyes and perfect contouring. When I asked about adding a bit more color to my lips, the artist apologetically explained that she had been asked to keep my look very subtle. Just as we were preparing for photographs, my mother announced that there was an issue with my bridesmaid dress. According to her, the dress no longer fit properly after my weight loss, despite the recent alterations. She suggested that I might need to adjust my posture or positioning to make the dress look better in photos. The photographer, who had been so complimentary during our previous session, seemed to have received similar instructions. He focused almost exclusively on Sarah and the other bridesmaids, capturing only mandatory group shots that included me. When he did photograph me individually, the sessions were brief and felt rushed. As extended family members arrived for the ceremony, their reactions to my transformation ranged from shocked to openly admiring. My Aunt Linda grabbed my hands when she saw me and exclaimed, "Oh my goodness, is that really Tiffany? She looks absolutely stunning." Sarah's response to these compliments became increasingly agitated. She began suggesting that certain family photos should be taken without the bridesmaids, or that we should focus on just the bride and groom for most shots. During the ceremony itself, I walked down the aisle as planned, but I could hear audible gasps from the guests as they saw me. The transformation was dramatic enough that many family friends did not initially recognize me. After the ceremony, as we gathered for formal photographs, the photographer naturally began including me in more shots, noting how well I photographed and how the camera loved my new look. The reception presented even greater challenges for my family's careful management strategy. Daniel, my date, arrived looking handsome in his navy suit and was immediately impressed by the elegant venue and the obvious wealth of my family. His attention to me throughout the evening was constant and genuine, and other guests began approaching us to compliment my appearance and ask about my transformation. As the dancing began, multiple men asked me to dance, including several of Sarah's college friends who had previously never paid any attention to me. Kevin, one of Bradley's groomsmen and a successful lawyer, spent most of the evening trying to get my attention, barely acknowledging the bride in his pursuit. Sarah's tolerance for these developments reached its breaking point near the end of the reception. She had been drinking steadily throughout the evening, and her carefully maintained composure finally cracked as she watched Kevin flirting with me near the dance floor. She approached our table with unsteady steps and fury in her eyes. "You did this on purpose," she screamed loud enough for nearby guests to hear clearly. "You wanted to upstage me at my own wedding." The scene that followed was everything my parents had tried to prevent. Guests turned to stare as Sarah's voice rose higher, her accusations becoming more desperate and cruel. "You were supposed to look decent, not steal attention from the bride." My mother rushed over to intervene, but instead of calming Sarah down, she turned her anger toward me. "Tiffany, you are being dramatic and selfish," she hissed. "This is your sister's day, and you are ruining it." My father's approach was more direct and equally devastating. "Tiffany, maybe you should leave early," he said firmly. "You are causing problems." But it was Sarah's next words that finally revealed the complete truth about their intentions. Through tears of rage and jealousy, she screamed, "We asked you to lose weight to look decent in photos, not to become the center of attention." As those words hit me like physical blows, everything became perfectly clear. They had never wanted me to succeed. They had wanted me to become just acceptable enough to avoid embarrassing them while remaining inferior enough to never threaten Sarah's position as the family beauty. The final insult came when Sarah demanded that I change into a different dress to tone down my appearance for the remaining reception activities. She actually suggested that I go home and return wearing something more appropriate for a bridesmaid. Standing in that elegant ballroom surrounded by the wedding celebration that I had been forced to earn my way into through months of grueling self-improvement, I experienced a moment of absolute clarity that changed everything. Something inside me shifted as I stood there listening to my family's demands. For the first time in my life, I saw their behavior clearly, without the desperate filter of wanting their approval. I realized that no amount of weight loss, no degree of self-improvement, no level of compliance would ever be enough, because the problem had never been my weight. The problem was their need to keep me small, so they could feel big. I looked directly at Sarah, then at my parents, and spoke with a calmness that surprised even me. "You know what I did, exactly what you asked me to do." My voice carried clearly across the reception area, and nearby guests began paying attention to our confrontation. "You wanted me to lose 30 pounds for your wedding. I lost 35 pounds. I followed your diet suggestions, I spent money I could not afford on gym memberships, and I transformed myself exactly as requested." The truth felt powerful flowing from my mouth after years of swallowing words. "The problem is not my weight, and it never was." I continued, looking directly into my mother's shocked face. "The problem is that you cannot handle me being confident. You cannot handle me taking up space. You cannot handle me being anything other than your family's charity case." Without another word, I gathered my purse and walked toward the exit. Daniel, who had witnessed the entire exchange, immediately followed me, placing his hand supportively on my shoulder as we left the reception together. As I drove away from the country club that night, still wearing my perfectly fitted bridesmaid dress, I felt something I had never experienced before. For the first time in my adult life, I had chosen my own well-being over my family's comfort, and the world had not ended. The next morning brought a barrage of phone calls from various family members, each attempting to manipulate me back into compliance through different strategies. My mother tried guilt. "You ruined your sister's wedding day. How could you be so selfish after everything we have done for you?" Sarah attempted emotional manipulation. "I thought we were close. I cannot believe you would betray me like this on the most important day of my life." My father used disappointment as his weapon. "We invested money in your transformation, and this is how you repay us, by embarrassing our family in front of everyone we know." Extended family members joined the campaign with aunts and cousins, calling to encourage me to apologize and make things right with Sarah. They painted my behavior as unreasonable and dramatic, suggesting that I had overreacted to simple wedding day stress. But for the first time in my life, I recognized their tactics for what they were. This was the same pattern they had used my entire life to make me feel guilty for wanting basic respect and consideration. They would create impossible situations, then blame me for reacting normally to their unreasonable treatment. I made the difficult decision to implement temporary no contact with my immediate family while I sorted through my emotions and gained perspective on our relationship dynamics. This decision felt scary and liberating simultaneously. Therapy became an essential part of my healing process. Dr. Jennifer Hayes, a counselor who specialized in family dynamics, helped me understand that what I had experienced was a form of emotional manipulation designed to maintain control over my self-worth and behavior. During our sessions, I began recognizing patterns that had existed throughout my childhood. My family's love had always been conditional on my willingness to remain smaller, quieter, and less threatening to their established hierarchy. My transformation had disrupted that balance, revealing their true feelings about my success. My career flourished as my confidence continued growing. The promotion I had been hoping for materialized, and my supervisor specifically mentioned my improved communication skills and leadership potential. For the first time, I was being recognized for my talents, rather than being overlooked because of my appearance. My relationship with Daniel developed into something genuine and supportive. He had witnessed my family's treatment firsthand and understood the courage it had taken for me to stand up for myself. His consistent encouragement helped me maintain my new boundaries, even when they felt difficult to enforce. The friendships I had formed through hiking and other activities became my chosen family. These people celebrated my achievements without qualification, supported my goals without sabotage, and appreciated my personality without trying to change it. 6 months later, my family attempted a reconciliation in preparation for the holidays. However, their apology was conditional and revealing. "We are sorry if you felt hurt, but you overreacted to normal wedding day stress." I responded by establishing clear boundaries about respect and treatment. If they wanted me in their lives, they would need to acknowledge my worth as a person, rather than treating me as a problem to be managed. Sarah's jealousy persisted even during reconciliation attempts. She remained unable to celebrate my success or acknowledge that her behavior had been inappropriate. My mother's criticism continued in subtler forms, with comments about weight maintenance and appearance that revealed her unchanged attitude. Ultimately, I chose limited contact with clear boundaries about conversation topics and behavior. Daniel therapy and my new friendships provided the genuine love and support that my family had never been able to offer. The transformation that began with losing 30 pounds taught me that true change happens from the inside out. I had gained something far more valuable than their approval. I had gained self-respect, genuine relationships, and the understanding that I was never the problem. Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who need you to stay small so they can feel big. Real love celebrates your growth, supports your dreams, and wants you to become the best version of yourself. Have you ever had family members who made you feel like you had to shrink yourself to earn their love? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. Please hit that like button if this story resonated with you, And do not forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about finding your strength and setting boundaries. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that their worth is not determined by other people's insecurities. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve love that celebrates who you are, not love that demands you become someone else. Until next time, keep growing and keep shining. Keep seeing.